All right, today we're tackling one of the most ambitious legal texts ever written, the Holiness Code from the Book of Leviticus. We're going to explore its pretty radical blueprint for how to build a just society, and it does it in a really fascinating way, from the outside in.
So, right at the very heart of this whole code is an ideal that you've definitely heard before. It's powerful, it's famous, and it's also deeply challenging. And while it sounds simple, the Holiness Code is going to show us just how incredibly complex it is to actually live by.
And that really is the big question here, isn't it? If you were going to design a whole society from scratch to make this ideal a reality, where would you even start? Well, the Holiness Code gives us this amazing blueprint, and it starts in a very, very specific place.
Okay, let's dive right in. See, the way this code sees it, a just society isn't just built on everyone having good intentions. Nope, it's built on impartial systems. And the whole thing kicks off in the most fundamental place you can imagine, the courtroom. So, pillar number 1, absolute fairness. The text is just so direct about this. Justice has to be blind. It can't be swayed by someone's status, whether they're rich or poor. Now, that might sound obvious, but the code knows that human psychology, well, it's a lot trickier than that.
And this is where it gets really fascinating, because the medieval commentator Rachil just breaks down the subtle temptations a judge is up against. And it's not about simple bribery. On the one hand, you've got this temptation of what you might call false compassion. Thinking, I'll just rule for this person because they're poor. But on the other hand, you've got the fear of shaming someone powerful. The code says a judge has to fight both of these very human urges. The point is, true justice starts by mastering your own internal biases.
So, once you've laid that foundation of impartial courts, where do you go next? Well, the code moves outward, from the courtroom right into the community. And it argues that what we say is every bit as critical to a just society as what a judge decides.
So the very next law we run into, in verse 16, says you can't go around being the Hebrew word is Rachil. It's usually translated as a talebearer or a slanderer. But the word itself, it holds a much deeper secret about just how destructive this behavior is.
And you have to see what Rashi does here. It's pure linguistic detective work. He notices that the word Rachil is always used with verbs about movement, about going about. So he connects the dots to a rokel, who is a traveling merchant, and a regel, which is a spy. So what's the conclusion? It's a game changer. A slanderer isn't just someone who passively passes on gossip. No, they're like a merchant of misery. They actively go out, spy for negative info, and then sell it for social points. It's not idle chat, it's a predatory act.
And right on the heels of that law against slander, we get this incredibly powerful command. Rashi looks at this and says, this is the ultimate anti-bystander law. You can't just stand there and watch someone get hurt when you could have done something. So justice isn't just about not hurting people with your words, it's about taking action to save them from physical harm.
All right, so let's take stock. We've got impartial courts, we have ethical speech. Now, the code goes somewhere no legal system usually dares to go. It moves from regulating what we do and say to legislating what we're allowed to feel.
Okay, so first the text says, you shall not take vengeance. But what does that actually mean? Rashi gives us this perfect, simple story. One person refuses to lend a tool. The next day, the other person returns the favor. It's direct, it's tit for tat. It's an action. You did this to me, so I'm doing it to you. Simple.
But then, right after that, the code adds, or bear a grudge. And this is different. It's way more subtle. Rashi's second story shows us exactly how. This time, the person actually lends the tool. They do the right thing. But with their words and in their heart, they keep that original offense alive. They're holding on to the malice. That is a purely internal state of being, and the code says, nope, that's forbidden too.
So look at the journey we've been on. We started in the courtroom, moved out into the community, and then we went deep inside the human heart. And now, only after purifying our actions, our speech, and even our feelings, do we finally get to the absolute peak of this whole ethical structure.
And there it is. Love your fellow as yourself. It's only after all that groundwork is laid, fairness, ethical speech, getting rid of vengeance and grudges, that the code finally presents its ultimate goal. And the great sage Rabbi Akiba said this isn't just another law, it is the foundational principle of the entire system.
But then, talk about a hard left turn. Right after this incredible emotional peak, the text hits us with these laws that seem, kind of strange. Don't mix different kinds of cattle, don't mix seeds, don't mix wool and linen. So what on earth is going on here? It seems like the code is telling us that building a just society isn't only about connecting with others, It's also about respecting distinctions, about maintaining a certain kind of order in the world. It's a whole other layer to the blueprint.
Okay, so we've got all these big ideas on the table. Fairness, ethical speech, forgiveness, love, order. But life isn't simple, right? It's messy. So how does this whole system actually hold up in the real world? Well, the code wraps this section up with a really difficult case study that puts all these principles to the test.
All right, let's break this case down. It's a tough one. You have a man who has relations with an enslaved woman who is designated for another man. Her status is stuck in this in-between place, not fully a slave, but not fully free either. Now, normally the penalty for adultery would be death, but here, the judgment is much more nuanced. She gets lashes, he has to bring a special offering. So, why the different outcome?
And it all comes down to one single detail: her legal status. Because she was not fully freed, the entire legal definition of the crime is completely different. This isn't just a simple case of right and wrong. It forces the judge to look at the very specific, complex details of the situation, applying the law with that fairness and distinction the code has been teaching all along. It's a real-world stress test for the entire system.
And that really brings it all home, doesn't it? We've seen how this ancient code builds a vision of justice piece by piece, from a judge's mind to the words we use, all the way to a grudge hidden deep in someone's heart. It presents this radical idea that a truly just society requires more than just fair laws. It requires a transformation of the human spirit. Which leaves us with this huge question to chew on. What does it even mean for a legal system to care about our feelings, and what kind of society does it create?